So I think there's a bit of, I don't like using the term misinformation. I think there are a lot of misleading comments and discussions, topics. It's one topic, but I think there are a lot of misleading pieces or things being said about Dr. Ratio being free. And if I'm being completely honest, a lot of it is just straight up cope and salt. Henshin a go baby, what's good guys? Yoku here, and today I really just want to make a chill video. I have seen so many people talking about this, comments, my Discord, other people's Discords, Twitch chats, other people's videos, whatever. I'm sure y'all have seen it too. Dr. Ratio is free because he's bad, or Dr. Ratio is going to be bad because he's free. Starrel only gave out Dr. Ratio because the game is dying. Starrel is only giving out Dr. Ratio because they have to compete with Genshin, or Genshin gets free stuff too, whatever. It's a total war. It's a lot of chaos going on right now that really doesn't need to be going on. And the gist of it is Starrel gave out Dr. Ratio simply because they, even if they don't, the mask that they could put on as of right now is that they appreciate the players. They appreciate what's been happening. They've had a very strong year. In fact, I think they've had the #1 spot for, like as far as revenue goes, the top gacha games. I believe they've had the #1 spot up until Farina released in Genshin Impact, and then Genshin Impact got the #1 spot again. But outside of that, Starrel has had a very strong year, top 3 every game for sure. With that in mind, it's totally fine for them to show some appreciation to their players. If they want to give us a free 5-star, cool. If they want to give us a free 5-star light cone, that would have been cool too. If they wanted to give us a free 5-star selector, that would have been awesome. It really didn't matter what they did. It was unexpected, and the fact that they did it, and they did it in a very well-mannered way. Dr. Ratio came in, he's like, yo, I heard y'all were putting these characters on my banner. They're ass. I can't believe you gave me, Dr. Ratio, a banner that wasn't worth a god. Because of that, I'm going to be free for everybody. The way they pulled that off is clean. I loved it. Being free doesn't mean that he's going to be bad. Now, there are some things that I want to point out about that though, because there are some worries that were brought to my attention that do make sense. Now, as much as I don't like calling him out, my boy Vantage did bring up a good point. He said most of the time in gacha games, when they release a free character, it's usually a incomplete version of the character. What that means is the base character, so E0 in this case, is fine. But in order for the character to really work or truly do whatever their intended job is to do, you would then need to pull E1, so a second copy of the character, or you would need to get their signature weapon, in this case, the light cone. While Dr. Ratio looks to be a very strong character in its own right, or in his own right, we don't have a light cone in the game that deals with follow-up attacks for a hunt character directly. And since a large majority of Dr. Ratio's kit is revolved around his follow-up attacks, or the debuffs that come from that, which in turn is still his follow-up attacks, is where the damage is, we can't really say that he'll be okay. Like, as a free-to-play, he's free. You can't complain about that, right? I'm not complaining. You shouldn't be complaining. We can make it work. It is what it is. But if for whatever reason Dr. Ratio was your favorite character and you're like, he's going to be my main DPS, I'm going to buff him up to infinity and beyond, I'm so excited, you might need to pull his light cone. The reason I say that is because you don't have Topaz's light cone, more than likely, and if you do, you already have Topaz, which means she has her light cone, so you're not giving it to Ratio. Having something for Dr. Ratio is going to be very important to figure out. I don't have access to do that right now. It's coming. The best way I can put that. But learning what Dr. Ratio can and can't use for his signature light cone, or for his light cone in general, his weapon, will be very important. It'll be very critical for a lot of the players. I don't think he'll need his E1. In fact, I don't think his E1 is going to change him drastically at all. I can't imagine that his E1 does something so drastic to change the character's function to what it does right now from what they showed off in the live stream, that it would completely change him and like, oh yeah, you need his E1, like E1 completes him. I can't imagine that. Light cone, on the other hand, probably, because if they do something similar to, you know how Jing Yuan has his light cone and it's like renowned, one of the best top 3, top 2 light cones in the game because of what it offers to the entire path of those characters. I could easily see them doing something like, oh yeah, well, here's extra crit rate, or here's extra crit damage for your hunt light cone, but if you use a follow-up attack, or all your follow-up attacks get boosted by 50%, some stupid crap like that. I don't know. I'm not saying that's what it is. I don't know. I haven't even looked at the signature light cones as far as like what's coming out, but my gist of that is that we don't have one. So we have, I guess we have a couple of options, right? So if we come into the game, we could actually look at, I believe it's in Databank, yeah. I can go to Databank, I can go to light cones, and I can show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. So you have In the Night, which is Azealis. This just doesn't matter for Dr. Ratio at all. And it mainly doesn't matter because from what they explained in the live stream, his skill doesn't really seem to be the one doing the big damage. It seems that a lot of his damage will be coming from his light cone, or my bad, not his light cone, the follow-up attack. That's what I meant to say, the follow-up attack. Sleep Like the Dead has nothing to do with the follow-up attack. Now this is nice for like crit stuff, right? You increase your crit damage, that's good. And then you get a guaranteed crit rate, or you get an increase in your crit rate if you don't crit, but it's like once every turn. Obviously this is Topaz's, where again, crit rate, I love that. And then follow-up damage, I love that. And then you also get the tame state. So putting this on Dr. Ratio in particular, at this point, Ratio has 100% guaranteed follow-up attacks. Being able to have his own debuff, which I believe he has the effect resistance, that counts as the debuff. He has the ultimate, the Wise Man of Folly, something like that. That counts as a debuff. And then if you were to somehow slap on Worrisome Blissful, Tame also counts as the debuff. So 3 of those would give you damn near perfect, I'm hitting follow-up attacks every time anyone does anything to this enemy, which would be great. Cruising in the Stellar Sea might work out. In fact, this is probably going to be everyone's best option, yeah? Because increases your crit rate by 16%, awesome. And then it increases their crit rate again against enemies by another 16%, whose HP is equal to 50% or less, which, you know, he'll probably get around to that. So a solid, what is that, 32%? A solid 32% increase in crit rate, awesome. And then of course you have, whenever you defeat an enemy, you're going to get a 40% attack increase. Now this is S5. I'm using S5 because all of the Hearts of Shop light cones are absolutely free. All you have to do is play the game. Maybe Swordplay could work out for him because it's going to be a raw damage output. Yeah, like if you have S5, Swordplay is going to increase your damage by 16%. That stacks up to 5 times. I think that's 54%, something like that. That's a ridiculous number to be able to increase your attack by, or your damage, my bad. So universally, S5 Swordplay could be very good for him, similar to how it's very good for Topaz, right? S5 Swordplay is very strong for Topaz because of the raw damage increase that you're getting. You don't get the crit, so you're gonna have to work a little bit harder on building up the crit rate and crit ratio, but it could work out for you. Subscribe for more, doesn't matter. River Flows in the Spring, doesn't matter. You don't have any other options for follow-up attacks, doesn't matter. Return to Darkness, and that's a battle pass light cone. Only Silence Remains, doesn't matter. None of these other light cones are mattering in a way where you're going to pay attention to them. So if you want the 5-star maxed out and you're looking for crit rate, you have to have the crit rate, and you want some extra attack percent, because 40% is nothing to laugh at. I think if you had like 2,000, that's a good like extra 1,000% or something like that. I don't know, or 800%, something like that. So you're gonna have a good almost 3K attack just from this alone if you only had a flat 2,000 attack, which you should have more, but some things happen. This would be good. It's free. You don't have to pull for it. You don't have to fish for it. Nothing. Just farm. And then Swordplay, S5 Swordplay, if you just happen to have this one, this is a raw 50+% damage increase across everything that you do, not just like basic attack, not just skill, across everything that you do. So that's the worrisome part, right? Was that receiving Dr. Ratio for free. Now, how do you build them? If you're completely free to play, you're looking at this as like, what do I do? How do I build this character? I don't really have any light cones for him. I really want to use him, but I can't do anything with that. It's incentivizing you to pull for his signature light cone. Like, oh, you got him for free. How about you use the Jades that you were going to use on him to use for the light cone? I don't recommend this. The reason I don't recommend this is because you benefit so much more from pulling Ron May, getting Dr. Ratio for free, and then either pulling Black Swan after that if you're going for DOT, or saving up for Acheron depending on when she comes out. I don't think she's coming out immediately after Black Swan, or Sparkle, that's who it is, Sparkle. Yeah, Sparkle. Pulling Sparkle, right? Skipping Black Swan and Dr. Ratio, saving for an entire patch. That's guaranteed one character, and then you can get Sparkle. So if you play your cards right, you can get Ron May, Dr. Ratio, and Sparkle, Acheron, or Black Swan. Those three, the last 3 are like your options for who you want, but you can decide whichever you want. But you can get 3 5-star characters within this next like a patch, this 1.6 going into 2.0, guaranteed 3 5-star characters because they're giving out Dr. Ratio for free. I don't recommend pulling his light cone. Now, I will say I'm gonna make a video on his light cone, so I'm probably still gonna repeat the same information. I just need to see it first. If his light cone is so cracked out that it's one of those like, oh yeah, he needs this, I'll let you guys know. Outside of that, I want to briefly talk about what he possibly could use for follow-up attacks. Now, I'm going to use my Topaz here, and then we're going to go to Relics. Boom. So with Topaz, I have the 4-piece follow-up set on her. I've seen a couple of people looking at this set as like, oh yeah, do you want to use this for Dr. Ratio because he has follow-up attacks? Big problem with Dr. Ratio's kit, from what I saw, is that he isn't doing like a bunch of follow-up attacks at once to max this out. So in this case, whenever you do the follow-up attack, then you save the, okay, maybe I should find a better way to explain this. When you use your follow-up attack, you get a set amount of attack increase, right? A set percentage of attack increase, and it stacks up to 8 times. But that's in one instance. So the follow-up attack needs to do a multitude of 8 hits total to max it out, or as many hits as you want, right? That's what you're aiming for, because what happens is it resets on your next follow-up attack. Dr. Ratio, since he's only doing 1, maybe 2, I don't know, but I know it ain't 8, he's never gonna get this max. Because of that, we were experimenting with this last night on stream, which thank you guys. But anybody that's been coming out to my streams the last couple of nights, thank you so much, dude. Y'all have been, where y'all coming from? Is it here? Is it YouTube? I appreciate that. I love it. We might be pushing for partner. I don't know. It might happen casually. I don't know. We'll see. You guys keep showing up. I like it. It's cool. But point being is that we were experimenting with this, and I think genuinely 2-piece Grand Duke and then a 2-piece Imaginary. There we go. 2-piece Imaginary. Probably going to be his best in slot for relics. Now you could probably mix this up. I don't know if I'd get rid of the Imaginary, but if the 10% Imaginary damage like didn't really matter, right? Like if you had the sword play, where's my sword play? There we go. If you had this and you're like, oh, well, I have a free 54% damage across the board on top of my orb. Maybe you could let go of 10%, right? You could let go of 10% Imaginary damage if that were the case. And so because of that, then you could start experimenting with like, oh, I want Messenger for a little bit more speed, or the break effect that I taught you guys about. I don't recommend him being a break effector, but if you wanted to make Ratio like a sub break effect attacker, you could go with Thief Set. Once again, I don't recommend that, but you could do whatever you want. If you have Musketeer and that's a little bit easier for you, you've already farmed it up, you can run Musketeer. I wouldn't run 4-piece though, because you're not using his basic attack. So 2-piece Musketeer and then 2-piece Grand Duke. But I think 2-piece Grand Duke is like static. You want this on him no matter what. And then you could play around with the other option with the Thief set, Messenger set. You can go with the Musketeer set. You can go with the obvious Imaginary set. And I think that should be it, right? Yeah, he's not really doing anything else. You don't really need defense on him in that manner. And I don't think we're getting any new relic sets in 1.6. So that'll probably all be all for what he's got going on. Regardless, I just wanted to give some 2 cents on the matter. Dr. Ratio is not free because he's ass. I don't think that's the case whatsoever. There are a lot of people who are going around saying, now me personally, I'm definitely on the side of saying Hoyo is treating Stariel way better than they treated Genshin, at least in year 1. And that's a very important point to make. If you compare year 1 Genshin to year 1 Stariel, year 1 Stariel takes the cake free. I guess you could argue it, but I'm not going to listen to the argument. I don't agree with it at all. I think it's very obvious which game is getting treated better. That doesn't make one game better than the other. It just genuinely means, like, I feel like people with siblings understand exactly what I'm saying. If you have siblings, there's always been like a favorite sibling, right? And like you can kind of point that out. No 2 siblings are ever treated equally, even twins. But people without siblings, or your parents, right? If you're a parent, you're like, I don't treat my kids any differently than the other kid. Yeah, you do. You might not want to admit it, but you do. It's kind of like that, right? Hoyo is the parent, Stariel and Genshin are the children. Genshin is the first child. Technically Honkai is his first child. They're graduated. Honkai Impact is out of college. They're doing their own thing. Genshin Impact is going through middle school. Stariel is like the baby. So you're treating the baby, right? This is your 3rd kid by now. You know what to do. You know the mistakes you made with the first kid. You know the mistakes you made with the 2nd kid. 3rd kid, perfect. You know exactly what to do to make this kid come out entirely successful. You have lined this kid's life up for success. That's Stariel. That's the best analogy that I could think of to explain that scenario. Stop listening to people who are raging or rage baiting or trying to argue just to be arguing for the sake of arguing about this. It's not worth it. I guess, like, if y'all are into that, keep that on Reddit. I really don't know. It's a really stupid ass fucking argument, bro. I normally I don't swear like that, but this is one of the most dumb arguments I've seen happen. You guys could be arguing about which game is better and hear the facts. Y'all are arguing about which game is treated better because you don't want to admit the fact that Genshin does not receive like good free things. Bro, I was there, you were there, she was there, he was there, everybody was there when we're getting 120 Prima Gems a day for a week to total out to the anniversary rewards that we're going to be getting. Stariel gives us free 10 pulls like every month or something like that, bro. Come on, man. This is whatever.